Now today in the shop we wet sanded, buffed out the headlight shell, and it's the part that goes on top of it. Went out to the garage, got it installed. I shared a lot of good tips, I think, that are useful tips. If you're working on the nose of an MT09, there's a lot of little tricky tabs and screws in places you might not know where they are. And the main thing is that wiring piece that is a little difficult to get out. Well, we try to cover everything, and there may be some very useful information if you have an MT09. And this promises to be a really special day. Perfect weather. We'll be able to get a photo shoot once I get those parts buffed out, put back on the MT09. We got some more stuff to move into the kids' house, some more garbage to take out. It's going to be a very busy day. I'm not sure we're going to get a ride today. That doesn't even matter. We're tying up a lot of the loose ends, and that real summer riding season is just around the corner. I think when we look back at this year, years from now, we're going to look back and say, boy, this was an adventure of a winter, an adventure working on the MT09, and I couldn't be happier the way it's coming out. This is one of the final pieces. That piece, we have to buff it out. It's drying up by the heating vent all morning since I had my first cup of coffee, and it should be ready to buff very soon. Luciano's already out riding his Korean bike. He's loving it. I think we're going to have to link up with him very soon, I hope. But the priority in our life in the last 3 months has been getting the kids moved into their new, the house is just beautiful. I can't believe it. We'll get, once they get all the furniture put back and everything, we'll get some photos. It exceeded my wildest dream, and I'm sure it exceeded theirs. So we do have all the parts, and when we go to install them, we'll just reverse the order. We have the tools we need, the screws we need. Parts are drying up, they need to be buffed out. And we should have time for a nice photo shoot at the end of the day. Turbo Steve's job is still drying up there, and I know he's busy getting decals for the other two parts. As soon as he has those, we'll try to finish that job up for him. But we got to take care of barnyard animals and fish first, and birds. Okay guys, who's hungry today besides me? Come on, you can do it. You can do it, kids. Summer's coming. There you go. Come on, baby. And several of the plants in our garden have started to sprout up already. Wow, what a great time of the year. As nature takes over, the new life, new buds, new everything. It's going to be a new year here on the farm. And of course, Karen and I are both itching to get our garden planted in. It's coming very soon. We had a great time last year. So after a good cup of coffee, let's see how these parts are drying up. Turbo Steve stuff. Still waiting for the decals. And we'll be excited to see how that's going to play out. And our stuff's drying up by the heating vent. That should be ready to buff. And we are ready. We are coming up on the end of a great work season this year. I was excited to get my parts from Partzilla. I believe this is the MT09 oil filters, which I've been buying from Partzilla right from the beginning. Oh yeah. Genuine Yamaha oil filters. That's them. We'll be ready to do the 12,000 mile oil and filter very soon, and we always want to have a few extras. The process is the same as for all painting. We're going to sand it, wet sand it with 2000 grit, and hand buff it with 6085, and we should be ready to go probably less than an hour. Now, since the day we did Mark Morgan's 600, and we discovered that this was just a great combination with the 8065. But it's Indasa Rhino Wet. It's the red line, 2000 grit. And to me, I've tried it. And I've tried 2500 and I've tried 1500. And this seems to be the most efficient way to get that part sanded and get it buffed, especially if you're buffing by hand. Now, as I try to do on all the tutorials, I always try to do one part in real time. Well, this is no exception. We'll try to do, just to show how long this should take. Now, there's always dust in the paint. We painted outdoors. If we had a spray booth, there'd be less dust and less little imperfections, paint nibs, whatever. But it doesn't matter. No matter how you do it, at the very end, this is what's going to be the thing that's going to make that final, flat, high gloss finish that I'm looking for. So I'm going to try to get this done in real time, and then the rest of it we don't care about, fast forwarding and whatever. But this is the key thing, and this is the part you don't want to skimp. You don't want to just say, oh, that's good enough. because this is what you're going to see. This is the final part of the paint. You're not going to see the primer. You're not going to see the first coats of black. But this part you are going to see. So this is like the bottom of the 9th inning, and this is where you want to hit a home run. So let me just do this part. And again, it's a few drops of water and Dawn, any kind of dish detergent. It's really not critical. But every time I do one of these videos and I try to show it, now the reason for showing it, you say, oh, you did that on other videos. Well, because some people are new to the channel, and we're picking up new people virtually every day. That's absolutely true. And YouTube, when they send a report every month, there's always 50, 60 new subscribers. And I think of those people, there's always a few hardcore people that really want to do this stuff. They're not just watching it because their boss isn't watching them at work. They really do want to know how to paint a motorcycle, paint a guitar, or do something that's, to me, of some value. Well, let's just see if we can show this realistically. Now, we're going to have to do the whole part, of course. That'll be a little time consuming, but that's exactly, let me just show it. And when you get that satiny finish. Now, here's another thing. If you're doing sanding and it's dragging on new paint, this paint is about 24 hours old, maybe a little less, but it's been by a heating vent for 8 hours, 9 hours. This, just look at this. That paint, if that sandpaper is dragging like it's sticking, the paint's really not dry yet. When the paint's satiny like that, you are really good to go. Now, if this were not sanding out nice and easy like this, or if the sandpaper were dragging, or if there were little chewing gum gumballs on the sandpaper, you're better off putting it back up by a heating vent for another day, or a minimum 4 or 5 hours or so. The heating vent in this house, because we're still in a cold weather part of the year, the heat is on all the time, because basically it's an old house. And so we have our own little private little cooking oven right up by the heating vent there for doing this kind of stuff. But anyway, I try not to rush it, but I don't want to just waste time either. And when I'm done with the part, I like to look at it from every angle possible. It just lets me see it. And if there's any little imperfection I want to get out, it's a lot easier to get it out with the sandpaper than it is when you're buffing parts by hand. So the next step, now that the part is totally flat sanded, 4CR 8065 and a nice clean microfiber and a lot of elbow grease. We're going to do this whole part by hand, I think. So as I always do, I try to put in real time at least one piece so you can see how long this surface takes with this product and a clean microfiber to become a shiny surface. And then you can just multiply that by how many times around you have to go. So the good thing with this, you don't need a lot of it. It's pretty economical, but it is a really high quality polish, and it really does work on a lot of stuff. It cleans up headlight lenses really good. That's one thing. Now I'm just going to do one little spot here. I want to show this in real time. Anytime I can show it in real time, then you know there's no camera cuts, there's no tomfoolery going on, there's no fast forward or anything. And when you see it, you can be here in real time to see it. But you can see it on video, you know it's the real deal. Now usually I would say if I let this paint dry an extra day or so, it would be just a little bit quicker. But since it's been up by a heating vent since early this morning, and maybe 6 hours, I don't know. I haven't kept track of it. It's probably 5 or 6 hours, and that heating vent, because the heat is still on in this house, that's the key to getting it. The paint has to be hard. When the paint is not hard, it's very difficult to buff it up now. And you can see that spot. Let's just see if you can see that spot. I'm not sure you. There, you can see it right there, right there, right there. Now, a part like this, I just find it easier because of my background in model aviation, where you were always buffing small little delicate things. Just easier to do it by hand. I'm sure you could get a buffing wheel on this, or a polisher or something, but it just takes so little time to do this, it's not even worth it. And the final product, I want it to see, I want it to have a flawless shine before I put it back on a motorcycle, because it's a lot easier to do it when it's out in the open than when it's attached to the motorcycle. Just makes it a lot easier. Now basically we have to do the same thing to this part, get out all the dust with the sandpaper, buff it out, and we'll be ready. I'm ready to get out there and get this assembled. So that little set of support was very easy to do, and it's very important to see how much of that you're going to actually see. It's only the front, maybe I guess 2 inches, but I painted a little bit further back. It'll disappear into the black hole in space when it's all put together. But I didn't want to have right in the middle of it have some flaw or some part of it that wasn't buffed out properly. So it took a little time. It got done nicely, and once that part is buffed out, it'll be perfect. And no flaws at all, and that's what I wanted. And when it's satiny like that and it's time to buff it out, the buffing part goes almost like an automatic transmission, just goes instantly. And even if you did it with a machine, a part like that would be very hard to do without maybe risking snapping it or breaking it or whatever. But it did come out nice, and we're pretty much ready to put the bike back together. So now the most important thing I want to remember is to put a drop of oil or grease or something on that, so that's a little easier to take apart the next time I have to take this apart. And we are ready because we got all the stuff lined up now. This is the way I always try to do it, is line up the stuff in the reverse order I took it off on with the appropriate screws and tools. And in the end, we'll just have to snap the windshield on. Should be a pretty straightforward job. Now these little tabs that are on these parts, they are really delicate. And I know how easy it is to break them. They kind of snap right in, but I don't want to bust anything at this point in time. I want to be real careful. And the reason these are a little difficult to get on because the thickness of the paint makes them a really super tight fit, which I guess is good in a way. There we go. And we're snapped in for good. Trying not to leave out any steps or anything that would be helpful. These are kind of just snap in, and what happens, they snap into the little slots. Now what happens is that part will stay on there when I put that back, and then this screw will be one of the 6 screws that attach this piece in the end. Now the rubber bushing gets back onto where we were holding apart while we were painting it. A good trick for this is to put just 1 drop of grease or oil or Vaseline or something so that you don't have a problem forcing it in, and that way it goes in a lot easier. I just happen to have the 3-in-1 oil sitting out on a table here, so. And sometimes these rubber bushings can really be tenacious to get in when they're dry. Let's see if it's our lucky day. There we go. Now another good trick, I'll put a drop of oil, grease, anything, so that when these things plug in, this happens to have the plug, it snaps in there. You don't want to have to force that in and out, and if this doesn't come apart for 10 years, that's all dried out and oxidized, and then when you go to pull it out, you break the tab, and then you're on the way over to my house to fix the tab. Now you don't want to forget to put the little blind nuts in the 2 places. Otherwise you can't get threads there. The bottom ones have plastic. The top ones have these little blind nuts that I took off so I wouldn't get paint on them. And that's the tab I was talking about, and it only takes 1 little drop of any kind of lubricant along there. This is the one that's going to be a problem. I couldn't get that wire to come off very easily. Well, this will make it a lot easier when we put it together. And this piece has a snap that's right under here. Puts that in, that holds it in place, and now you can get the screws in. The ones with the little nylon washer go on the bottom. Well, we can do that, and once these are in, they'll be nice and solid and easy to work on. And once you get that screw tightened up, that holds everything in place while you can get the rest of the screws. There's 6 screws all together. Now this is a real good little tip if you're working on this kind of a thing or anything where everything is rubber mounted. I put all the screws in, not even hand tight, just catch a couple threads. And then, because what happens if you tighten this one up, these are in rubber bushings and the holes don't exactly line up. So if you get everything just like you're torquing down the head, you get them all started just enough. In this case, it'll float into position from the little rubber bushings that it's mounted to. It just makes it a little bit easier, just a tad easier. And that's a good tip when you're working on anything that has a lot of rubber bushings, Because then it's not like putting an engine together where everything is lined up exactly perfect. The rubber tends to let everything just move around a little bit. Well, I like the way it looks before I even put the rest of the parts on. I think that part should have been painted right from the factory though. Even if you don't have a windshield, I think that looks better. Okay, we've got to assemble this little piece now. This has to go. This has to go in here. I like how Yamaha has all these little snap and little things that snap together. You know what it does? It makes it that you can take the whole motorcycle apart with a lot fewer screws too, which I guess is cool. And all this stuff is rubber mounted. A lot of it is anyway. Makes it real easy to work on a motorcycle. Now, knowing that those wires have to go back, this is going to be tricky. I know it. Now those wires are hooked right the way they should be. This little piece has to get snapped in. The rubber bushing has to be, I make sure I get it lined up just right. That pops in. And we're ready to mount the windshield mount. Well, it looks like we guessed right on how far back that paint was going to show. That's pretty obvious. And getting the windshield back on here, it looks like, I was hoping it would be a little bit sunnier for a photo shoot, but, well, anyway. And these I always torque down just hand tight, and then torque them down like putting a head on a car or a motorcycle. The last part of this is just making sure the screws are not overly tight. I really don't want to take a chance on cracking this windshield, even though I have a spare. Alright, time to see if we can get a couple of nice photos of this for the computer. And that'd be the end of a very successful day. Now, there wasn't as much sun as I was hoping for to do some photos, but I never want to miss a chance to, when I make a change to the bike, to get some photos that I can look at on my computer. And I like the way it looks in person. I like to see how it's going to look on a computer, because each one helps me plan what the next step or what the next change would be, or what I want to modify, what I want to make a change, or maybe I don't want to make any changes at all. And so, but each time I do something, I do try to have what you see right now is a little photo shoot, looking at it from a lot of different angles, far away, close up. I can see how it's going to look. Now, it would have been nice if the sun was shining today. Well, sometimes you just got to go with the Army, the polished exhaust system you have. I don't know. Anyway, when I look at the various features and I try to, in my mind, say what I do like about it, and the overall look at the nose of the bike with the scoops with no bolts, I love that. The polished exhaust, I really busted my buns on that polished exhaust. So worth it. You notice that right away. You walk up to the bike, you notice it right away. And of course, the big things, the silver wheels, the windshield, and having a spare. I'm happy I have a spare in case that, you never know with a windshield, a rock hits it or something. The silver wheels just changed the whole bike. And all of the help John Pothier was with the photo shoots and looking at the logos when we changed the logo. Every little step of the way, this has been like what it really is an adventure. And we're coming up on, well, it's not coming up, we're there at a year and a half of having a bike already. And I was hoping when I bought the bike and that I'd have the ability to do these changes over one winter. Well, it turns out winter's almost over, and I think we got 99% of what we want to do done here. And as I look back and I see the things that those bolts and the scoops used to make me crazy. And there's little things. There's the bolts on the side of the frame. Every time I'd wipe the bike off, I'd go, why didn't they make a little cover for that? Well, making those little blue covers and painting the tail section. Just changing the tail section from flat black. And if you can imagine, when I bought the bike, the whole bike was almost flat black. There were only 3 or 4 parts painted, I think, on the whole bike. And that color that they chose, the flat gray for the fender and the side covers. But it didn't matter. See, to me, it didn't matter if the bike was pink when I bought it. I wanted it to be blue to start with, because I do like the Yamaha racing blue. But if it were yellow, I would have bought it anyway and just painted the tank. Wouldn't have been a big deal at all. But the things that make the bike, oh, the mirrors changed the look of the bike. They're just not having those flat black mirrors. And I don't know what it is about the flat black parts. It just makes me crazy. I don't know. Every time I add something blue or something shiny,
where there was something flat or flat black, I like the bike better. That's just a general rule. Now, not everybody does. I'm sure some people say, oh, yeah, it's a naked bike. It's supposed to look all flat black and, you know, mean and nasty looking. I don't care. It's my bike. That's the good news. I like the carbon fiber parts. Vlad, thank you very much. That was real nice, high quality carbon fiber stuff. I thought that was one of the final touches. But all of the things combined, now I really feel like it's my motorcycle. And I really feel like as I'm really coming up on this summer riding season, I'm ready to put a record amount of mileage on this bike over the summer. Right over my house. Hard to believe. Hard to believe. Just never ends. So the day turned out pretty successful. It got cloudy. I thought the sun was going to be out. I'd shoot more pictures if it was, but it's got nothing now, and it's supposed to rain tomorrow, so who knows what. And I like it that way. I don't like Groundhog Days. I like it to be a surprise. Listen to these jets go. What is it now? Prop plane. They go right over my house. They could have a bombing run. Never move near an airport if you don't like airplanes. Don't move near a train station if you don't like trains, and don't move near a motorcycle mall if you don't like motorcycles. Words of wisdom. So the day ended on a real positive note, and I really think that's going to be a nice little upgrade. But the good news is, and it's like all evil twin parts, actually all the things we've done to the bike, if somewhere down the road you want to make it blue, or you want to make it flat black again, or you want to change it in some way, that's the nice thing about having parts like evil twin parts, or the nice thing about painting things. Because if you're not happy with it, it's easy to just paint it. When you cut the back off the frame with an acetylene torch, not so much. Anyway, it was a really good day. Hope you enjoyed sharing this little video with us. We enjoy making them. We post something up every day, and we try to share our passion for motorcycles. And thanks so much for watching. Hopefully we see you tomorrow.